this is Lizzie, and today I'm sharing with you how to make this simple modern Christmas card. So I'm going to start by making the background, which is a simple black and white background, which I thought really let the colors pop on this card. And I'm going to create a diamond pattern using my T-squared ruler. So I'm just using the width of the ruler to evenly space the lines on the diagonal, and that will allow me to evenly space the X's that I stamp with black ink in a little bit, and it will create a nice symmetrical background. So you can see the grid of diamonds that it created, and then I'm going to be using Smitty's ABCs. I'll be using the letter X, and I just thought this was a really simple way to create a background without leaving it completely stark white. You could use another alphabet stamp set or even a dot, what I think would look really cool. And then I'm just going to stamp those right into the center of the diamonds to create this very simple background. I'm going to go ahead and erase the lines, the pencil lines, and that finishes this super simple background. So now I'll be using this stitched inside out square or rectangle die, and I'm just going to die cut that from the panel that we just stamped. And this will create a nice stitched line on the inside of the rectangle that will give this card just a little bit of extra texture. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my die cutting done. I'll be using this stitched inside out scalloped circle die, and I'm going to die cut that from some Guava Cardstock. The guava color and the peacock color that I use for the Christmas tree are sort of my non-traditional red and green Christmas colors. And then to finish off this stitched scalloped circle, I'm going to emboss this wood grain pattern onto it just to give it again some extra texture. So now I'm going to die cut the tree, which is from the Tiny Tags Winter Dies, and again that's out of some peacock cardstock. It got a little bit stuck in the die, so I'm just using my paper piercer and popping that right out. And then I'm going to be using the tree topper, which comes with the Tiny Tags dies, and die cut that from some gold foiled cardstock. So now I'm going to start working on my sentiment. I'm using this from Here We Go, A-Waddling. I really like the font. I thought it went really nicely with the sort of modern, younger sort of holiday card. And I'm going to stamp that with some Versamark ink. I have it already mounted on an acrylic block. And I'm stamping that onto some black licorice cardstock. And then I'll be using some lawnfawn white embossing powder, which is a really nice, high quality white embossing powder. I'll just apply that to where I stamped my sentiment, and then I'm going to use a little paintbrush just to wipe off any of those stray little flecks of embossing powder. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and use my heat tool just to melt the embossing powder. You can see how nice and crisp and white it looks against the black cardstock. And then I'm going to be using one of these banner dies to die cut out the sentiment. So I think this card is bold enough to stand out against a white card base, but I wanted to just add a little bit of extra fun to this pretty simple card, and I decided to play off of that gold tree topper that we die cut earlier and create a gold perimeter for the card panel to sit on. So I'm using some Versamark ink and just kind of dabbing that around the perimeter of this card base. And then I'm going to be using some gold embossing powder from Lawnfawn, and I'm just going to apply that all over the card base around the perimeter. It's going to look a little bit messy, but I only need just the edges to show because the card panel will be sitting on top. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish applying that around, and then I'm going to be using my heat tool to melt the embossing powder and create a gold sparkly finish, which I think again looks really nice with this holiday card. I just love how gold and sparkly and festive it looks. So I'm going to start assembling the card now, and I'm going to be using some Scor Tape to adhere this card panel onto the card base. And this is a really strong adhesive. I thought that was necessary because I wasn't quite sure if tape runner would adhere quite as well as I would need it to with the embossing powder. So I'm just going to peel off the liner paper and then center that card panel onto the card base. And you can see the gold around the perimeter is really subtle, but I think it adds a nice festive touch to the card. I'll be using some tape runner to adhere the guava circle. And then I'm going to use some liquid glue to apply the gold tree topper to the tree. And then I'll adhere the tree down to the circle again with some liquid glue. The very last thing I need to adhere to finish up this card is the banner, and I'm just using some foam squares to adhere that down. I'm going to peel off again the liner paper and apply that right below the tree. Alright, so here is the finished card. I hope you enjoyed how to make this really modern, sort of non-traditional Christmas card. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!